A message to young people from the Jess Brown legacy.
What's good? My name is Charity Croft. When speaking on Mexicans, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "They're rapists, and I assume some are good people." Well, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 73.9% of all rapists are white, 22.8% are black, and 3.3% are other. That very small other would include Mexicans, Asians, Native Americans, and every other race that is not black or white. So no, Mexicans are not the root of the rape problem in America. I know what you may be thinking. Of course the majority of rapists will be white because the majority of the country is white. That doesn't mean that Mexicans may not rape at a higher rate than white people. Well, according to the BJS National Crime Victimization Survey, for 2013, whites accounted for 71% of all sexual assaults documented, while they only make up 63% of the U.S. population. Latinos, on the other hand, only accounted for 9%, far below their total percentage of 17% of the country. When speaking on ISIS, Donald Trump says, and I quote, "I would bomb the shit out of them. There'd be nothing left, and I'd take their oil." Unquote. Well, if you didn't know, ISIS stands for the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. To be more accurate, when Donald Trump says that he bombed the shit out of them, he's specifically referring to the oil fields, which seem to be the organization's primary source of income. Well, if you know anything about Iraq and Syria, then you know that a huge portion of their economy is based on this oil. According to the Pew Research Center, 91% of Iraqis are not in favor of ISIS. That being said, bombing the shit out of them and taking their oil would completely ruin the lives of 33.4 million Iraqis, or however many would be left alive after this attack. And let's keep in mind that 91% of these people are innocent people that do not favor ISIS in any way. As far as immigration, Donald Trump plans on deporting the more than 11 million undocumented illegals in our country and build a wall between America and Mexico. He's doing this because, according to him, undocumented illegals are costing us more than $200 billion a year and taking away jobs from American-born citizens. Well, I have found no research to support his claims that illegals are costing us $200 billion a year. The highest I found was according to the United States Census Bureau current population survey, which said, under current law, all unlawful immigrant households together have an aggregate annual deficit of around $54.5 billion. But let's make it fun and assume it was $200 billion. We must first consider that 1 out of every 3 farm workers in America is an undocumented illegal immigrant. According to the USDA, the agriculture industry contributes $835 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product yearly. So if we assume that removing 1/3 of the employees would at least affect 1/3 of the outcome, then by deporting all illegal immigrants, we are literally losing out on $278 billion of our national income. And that's if we're being nice and we assume that it would just affect 1/3 of the product. But realistically, if we were to fire 1/3 of all farmers, our entire agriculture industry would literally collapse. And I know what you're thinking, well, we could just fill those positions with Americans that need jobs. No, actually both Alabama and Georgia tried to do mass deportations of illegals and it failed miserably both times. They couldn't find anybody to fill all those job positions because most Americans don't want to spend 12 hours in the fields picking crops. That being said, both states had to revoke their decision so that the immigrants would come back so that their farming industry wouldn't completely collapse. Georgia lost over $150 million worth of crops in the very short, very small level deportation that they did in comparison to what Trump is trying to do. Not to mention the fact that the idea of getting the resources, warrants, officers, and everything necessary to search the entire country, find 11 million undocumented people, and literally kick them out of the country is just like inconceivable. You would literally have to dismantle families and chase people through the streets and into their houses and forcibly put them on planes and send them out of the country. Even if something as preposterous as that could work, according to the Wall Street Journal, it would take $400 billion to do it. Undocumented illegals are not eligible for Social Security, Medicare, Earned Income Tax Credit, food stamps, welfare. They contribute over $11.6 billion yearly to our economy and spending. They pay a higher effective tax rate than the richest 1% of the country, and our entire $835 billion agriculture industry is literally based on their labor, like it's founded upon it. Economically speaking, undocumented immigrants are arguably one of the most productive, beneficial aspects of American society. We should be begging for more of them. Finally, Donald Trump wants to secure our borders not only from undocumented immigrants, but from potential Muslim terrorists. Literally ban all Muslims from entering. Listen, this large gray box represents all the gun-related injuries that happened in America in 2015. The smaller gray box represents the gun-related deaths of 2015. And that little tiny black box represents the mass shootings that happened in 2016 that we would consider terror. 0.5% of the gun violence is related to terrorism. And get this, the vast majority of the terrorism in that little black box was committed by white Christian men. Islamic extremists only account for 2.6% of the mass shootings in America. That is 2 2% of 1/2%. This means that Muslim terrorism only accounts for 0.0001% of the gun violence in our country. The Orlando shooting was literally, statistically, scientifically a 1 in 10,000 occurrence. Meanwhile, an unarmed black man gets shot by the police every 28 hours. Almost every single day. We've got way bigger fish to fry. This video isn't necessarily to get you to not vote for Donald Trump. We don't care about that. We just want you to think for yourself.
A message to young people from the Jess Brown legacy.